let's move a little bit more to the subconscious stuff, because that's kind of bothering me right now. And I have been working right now. Really, I have had 30,000 students in my time in 11 years, something like that. And I understand that a lot of that stuff has happened superficially, kind of on the surface, really. And this is kind of really because I hope that I gave best methods what I could give at that time. But when I'm starting to involve body and when I'm starting to involve subconscious levels, those reasonings with those causes, then really kind of magic happens. And I just think that we talked the other day about this, how we could tell society that subconscious level, subconscious mind, is the one who we need to work on if we really want to get rid of, so to speak, in Buddhist terms, rid of suffering, right? How to solve the questions, how to solve the problems. Maybe you have come up with some ideas, maybe some basic bullet points or aspects. What is really needed to tell society that subconscious mind is what controls us? Number one. Second, we can work with that. And third, you can have and we can have this great new product in our lives, relationships, job, health, and so on, so on, so on.
Well, it's a truth. It's a common truth that the subconscious mind is in charge. Then it's a question of convincing people that that's the case, because if they're not convinced that it's the case, then they're not going to go any further. If they're already convinced that it's the case, then it's a question of another persuasion job, which you've got to persuade them that there is something they can do about it. There is something that they can do to either harness or channel the workings of the subconscious mind in their favor and not against them. So
actually, sorry, we actually should approach this topic as creating new markets. Actually, this is a new market, because there are those innovation curve early adopters, right, who are just looking forward to something and they're feeling that, something like that. But we are like at 1% or 2% percentage globally, I suppose, something like that, right?
Yeah. So most people recognize the subconscious as powerful. They don't recognize that there's anything you could do about it. Even a psychotherapist will tell you, yes, the subconscious is everything. The subconscious is in charge. There's nothing you can do about it. You just have to go to a therapist twice a week, talk about your mother, and maybe one day after 20 years, you might find some kind of happiness. So let's look at the first problem first, which is that people not believing or dismissing the power of the subconscious. That's a problem. That's a problem. I don't know what's the best way of convincing people. I'm sure we could think of some fantastic examples.
Washing your hands, for example, where there was a lot of deaths of young mothers when those doctors just didn't wash their hands.
Right. Okay. Yes. Yes.
So there was this wonderful story about I heard about Jews who said that, listen, just wash. What was the story you told?
Oh yeah, in the Middle Ages. Yeah. When people said that the Jews are poisoning the wells because everybody was dying of disease and the Jews weren't, so they assumed that the Jews must be poisoning the wells. It turns out the Jews were just washing their hands. So the Jews said, wash your hands and leave us alone. And everybody said, no, that's spooky Jew stuff. We don't do spooky Jew stuff. So they kept not washing their hands, kept dying, and kept killing Jews. So that's a superstition. Now, there are a lot of people in the world who are superstitious. A superstition just being a belief about cause and effect that's not true.
Listen, but I suppose
true, but it's usually not.
100% of people are superstitious because we all have some kind of naivete towards something or some whatever. And actually, there are so many examples. Actually, for example, still the question about placebo, right? There are so many studies right now. There are showcases when you can case studies when you can see that it works, right? And still it kind of stays in the shadows, so to speak, right, for the mainstream and stuff like that. And by the way, the question, sorry for interrupting and jumping in, the question right now is about media as well. So me as a media guy, I know how ignorant I can be because I'm living in my own bubble. Now, for example, I'm in education and on the many levels. I'm on a business side of things as well. So I feel those media guys who just don't understand this stuff. They don't understand. They are trying mentally to kind of get the grasp on it. But every time, I suppose, for them becomes the word subconscious or placebo or whatever, it actually meets their superstitions, right? So it actually, what you said is, I think, maybe crucial. So one should approach this topic regarding, so we are dealing with superstitiousness, right?
Superstition, yeah.
Superstition, and we should act accordingly in terms of marketing, so to speak.
Yep, totally. I'm still trying to think of ways to persuade people who don't believe that the subconscious is actually very, very powerful. There are ways. I just haven't thought of them.
Listen, if we approach this from this aspect of for drama controls. So, for example, we have these communication for control dramas. So we have this communication types from our family archetypes, right? So, and if we create the message in this shape of that specific some kind of 4 types of drama, the question for me appears instantly is, so if, for example, there is this interrogation or victim, let's victim is, it's kind of more easiest one, I suppose. If in my childhood I had this victim relationship with my parents, so what does it mean? It will shut me down or it will open me, or it can go both ways. The main thing that if we talk in victim sense, victim style, so to speak, right, about this kind of, I don't know, placebo is good, subconscious mind is good, can we say that we can open to that, and if we do that wrongly, we can shut the people down?
Yeah, definitely we can. With the victim thing particularly, or in fact with these 4 archetypes, the victim, the interrogator, the intimidator, and the aloof, distant person, whilst it's true that they originate in childhood, it's one aspect of the subconscious. The subconscious is programmed in many ways by various stimuli that happen to us, often very negative stimuli. So the control dramas that you talk about, for example, in a victim, somebody who basically says, poor me, poor me, poor me, that's a response that's been trained in them by their life circumstances, probably by very intimidating parents who are constantly looking to threaten them, humiliate them, intimidate them, shout them down, shut them up. And that kid will then learn to go, oh, it's not fair, and whinge and moan is a way of getting sympathy and attention from other people, not necessarily from their parents, although possibly also from their parents. And because that works, that appears to work as a way of getting energy from other people, they carry that behavior into adult life. That behavior is not only dysfunctional, it also creates, it creates trouble. The more the person employs that behavior as a strategy, the more trouble they get into. And yet, because it's a habit, they don't know how to do anything else. And if you walk up to that person as an adult, it could be a very intelligent, very educated adult, very nice person. If you walk up to that person and you say, I've identified that there's something wrong with your behavioral responses to all sorts of stressful situations, you're basically a victim. You're a poor me. They will explode with rage. How dare you? You don't know anything about me. Who the hell do you think? All this kind of stuff. Even if a therapist, a person that they've paid to tell them this stuff, tells them this stuff, they can still get very, very negative. And guess what? They get straight into the poor me mask, as it were, in response. So you say, you're a poor me, you're a victim. And they go, God, you're criticizing me. How can you criticize me? Everyone criticizes me. Well, that's a poor me response. If you say that you're an interrogator, you're somebody who's constantly interrogating people, hunting them, trying to make them feel like they're wrong, trying to force them to justify themselves. This is your control drama. They'll say, really, give me evidence that that's the case. How do you know what you're talking about? You don't know. Are you a psychologist? So they'll start interrogating you. Now, what they don't realize, maybe they do, in a part of their brain that they have to push it down. They probably don't realize, and this is the subconscious part, that these responses are not rational, considered, intellectual, logical responses to that situation in that moment. These responses are trance-like habits. They're habits that you've had since childhood. You flip straight into this trance when this stimulus happens. Whenever the stimulus happens, that's it. That's the trance you switch into, and you know no other response when you're in that trance. And it's a 3-year-old trance. It's the trance of a 3-year-old who's got an overwhelming incoming traumatic stimulus, probably from the parents, and has to figure out a way of reacting to it. And that energetic response is automatic. you can't consciously control it. Unless, first of all, because you can't even consciously notice that it's happening. Unless you realize from your own sense of dissatisfaction with life or from somebody else's feedback, you realize there's a pattern here and there's something dysfunctional about the pattern, something that you want to change about the pattern. And then you take steps to identify what it is. Whatever those steps are, you take steps to identify what it is. And then eventually you realize this is the pattern. I have an interrogator pattern, or I have an aloof pattern, or I have a victim, but whatever it is. And then you can start consciously trying to change it, which is not easy, but at least it's a start. Most people don't get that far. Most people just know that there's a problem. And most people, because we have a sense of psychological self-preservation, we don't want to disintegrate psychologically, so we blame other people. The reason why I react aggressively when people criticize me is because they're so aggressive when they criticize me. It's not because I have a trance-like trauma where I can't handle criticism. It's because these people shouldn't be criticizing me. It's their fault. And maybe I did overreact when they criticized me, but they deserved it because they were overreacting when they criticized me. So I'm not the one who's at fault. I don't need to change. They need to change.